Welcome to the Bold Analysis. My name is Frank. After a long silence of major political commentary and talks, the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has now emerged. Today, Rigathi Gachagua has not just emerged, but has emerged with what he thinks or what he makes of the recent cabinet appointments by William Ruto. I think that is a speech that almost everybody was waiting for. We were all waiting for Rigathi Gachagua's commentary on that specific subject matter. And as I can tell you, he has not relented. He's come out as somebody who, for one, is not happy with the new cabinet or has some reservations in regards to the new cabinet, even though he's trying to hide the same, or rather conceal. Of course, I've watched a speech of about 17 minutes or so that he has made today during the burial of the mother to the cabinet secretary, Mercy Wanjau. And in that speech, 17-minute speech, it really has a lot in it politically. And I watched it minute by minute, followed his sentiments word after word. And, you know, in that speech, one thing that he has said, first and foremost, is that that cabinet that is in office that has been appointed or nominated is a win for Kenyans. While at the same time trying to appear that he is equally happy, since this is something that is a win for Kenyans and he is a Kenyan, then definitely he should also be happy. But then he seems not to be happy and not excited as a man or as a person with some sort of interests, according to his language, in this government. It reached somewhere in between that speech of his that he started heaping praises on the former Treasury CS, Professor Njuguna Ndung'u, whom he said stood with the government at its lowest point and came into boardroom with ideas that pushed Kenya's economy to some level. But just gauging from that, it really had a lot of meanings and hidden intentions in that same sentence alone. Before I spill more of the beans, or spoil the broth rather, here's the speech by Rigathi Gachagua.
To clarify, when the cabinet was dissolved, Mercy, the secretary to cabinet, was not touched because people have been asking, Mercy yako wapi? So there was no need to reappoint her because she was there from the word go. So I have seen many people, all sorts of analysts and newspaper people and commentators commenting about gains and losses. Which region got what, which one lost, which one didn't, who is strong, who is not. I think the whole thing is a win for the people of Kenya. And for us as a region, we are very happy that Mercy adds our numbers. And we are very proud of our performance from a daughter of this region and her commitment to public service and assisting the president in the management of the affairs of this country. I want to say that let us all remain united as a country. We have just gone through very difficult periods. In moderate, I agree with you 100%. That those who took advantage of well-intentioned peaceful protests to loot property, to steal, to maim, to hurt, those are idiots. I agree with you. They are even more idiots and more idiotic as those who try to take advantage of the whole scenario to settle political scores with those they don't support or those they have a problem with. Trying to apportion blame, trying to say this and that. Those are even more idiotic than those idiots. And I agree with your sermon entirely. Let people know that Kenyans are also very intelligent people. People of this great country have come of age. They see from far, they analyze, and they know. As you speak of any situation, have tremendous respect for the people of Kenya. People are not foolish. There is no shortage of fools in this country. People are fairly intelligent and very analytical. And the ordinary Kenyans are ahead of us leaders. They know many things. And they see. And they can tell. And they understand. Let us respect the people of Kenya, because the people of Kenya are fairly intelligent people and they know very many things. I want to take this opportunity to really thank Professor Njuguna Ndung'u for your very outstanding performance at the National Treasury. I want to say we are very proud of you as our son from this region. We know where you found our economy and your stewardship of the National Treasury. As you hand over to the new nominee, walk with your head tall. You worked hard for late hours. You came to cabinet and presented clear and concrete proposals. As our son, we are really, really very proud of your performance and your achievement. And let me encourage you that when God closes one door, God opens another door. And we wish you well. But you, as you retreat, know that we are very proud of your achievements. How I had the order from Nairobi West. I don't know. The last time I checked, Nairobi West PCA was...
So, since the dismissal of the cabinet, one thing has been out that, Rigathi Gachagua seemed to have been on a political trajectory where he used to throw indirect, silent attacks on his boss, but via the people surrounding William Ruto, such that it would not be read that he has some sort of political score that he wants to settle against William Ruto. I know politically he's also smart. Being a member of parliament and making it from a member of parliament to the position of a deputy president of a country is no easy work politically in this country. It must involve some incentiveness and some creativity politically, since politics is an art to reach that there. He himself, he prides as a graduate of political science. Yes, one of the best, he says so. But from today's speech, there are things that are coming in clearly. Rigathi Gachagua seems to be somebody who still wants to remain as if he's calm, while at the same time trying to read the political script at play right now, especially now that something that he was vehemently opposed to, the opposition joining the government, has happened. And I know everybody else was waiting for the reaction of Rigathi Gachagua in regards to this. So he seems to be somebody who is still trying to read the script at play in order to familiarize himself with the different scenes in this story before he pounces back. I know in a few weeks from where I sit or read it from, we'll definitely see even a more different Rigathi Gachagua than the one we've just seen or than the one we are seeing today. So, the following issues come out clearly from that speech and from the mood around, that one, he feels that there is a diminishing political power surrounding him within the state corridors. The political powers that he used to have, he seems to have been impacted a little bit and might be diminishing, and he's probably trying right now to understand what is the role of Musalia Mudavadi, probably trying to read whether Musalia Mudavadi is a potential political threat to him or not. Because at first, that seemed as the threat. when the government still belonged to him and William Ruto. But now that other faction has been brought into government, he wants to know, is Musalia Mudavadi a political threat to me? Because definitely, that one he doesn't need to weigh. Raila, he sees there is a political threat to him. He knows. He's a politician, so he knows that one directly. The other thing under his diminishing powers is also trying to weigh what is the real intention of Raila and his team trying to get into government. Is the intention to remove him from the closeness to power, as it happened when Raila joined Uhuru's government in 2018, when Ruto got himself shoved off the center of power? So that is something that is trying to weigh on and see whether that is the politics at play here. And the other thing that maybe is giving him a headache is how does he want now, or how is he going to sit in the same cabinet with Raila's loyalists, something that he had opposed before. So that must be what is going through his mind right now. He also feels that in this government that now is here with the opposition and him, and he was opposed to the opposition, if he doesn't tread carefully, that might be his feeling, that if he doesn't tread carefully, then he might appear as an isolate in this government with his Mount Kenya agenda. We say his Mount Kenya agenda because he's been pushing for the unity of Mount Kenya. He's been fighting drug and substance abuse in Mount Kenya. He's been fighting for the interests of farmers in Mount Kenya. So that is his Mount Kenya agenda. He doesn't want to appear as an isolist or somebody who has been isolated by his agenda, because politically the scripted play might isolate him so if he doesn't curate his trajectory carefully. And then, you know, from that speech alone, I read something. You look at his face speaking, then the face is a portrayal of, for you now, the people who are watching or listening to him, of somebody who is pretending to care. He is pretending to care about the new cabinet appointments. I saw him mention some few names of the appointees to that cabinet who are there, and he did this in his native Kikuyu language. Number two, the speech he has said, in his speech, he has said something that let's respect the people of Kenya who are very intelligent and know many things. What does that imply to you? It implies something that, for one, maybe the reappointments of some of these cabinet secretaries didn't sit pretty well with him, because after the dismissal, he went, and everywhere he went, he was imploring upon people, especially the church, to pray for the president. In particular, this one he said in Nyandarua, if I'm not wrong, so that the president can get the right men and women without kiburi to help him steer the country forward. So, if he says that Kenyans are very intelligent and know many things, then he implies that the recycling of some of these cabinet secretaries does not sit pretty well with Kenyans and also with him. So Kenyans in that place, he is a Kenyan. So therefore, he can, that statement syntactically, in terms of syntax or the grammatical meaning that it might have or implication that it might have, the immediate one, when he says that Kenyans are very intelligent and know many things, he is a Kenyan. Therefore, it is not wrong to say that Rigathi Gachagua is intelligent and knows many things. That is it. That is the first straight, clear interpretation of that. Then the other interpretation might be that, you know, with you reappointing some of these cabinet secretaries or getting some from strongholds that we do not support, then the people who voted for you, which in this case, the people to him, might be his Mount Kenya base that voted to this government, are very intelligent and know many things and are not probably happy about some of the entrance or re-entrance into this cabinet. I just want to leave it at those two interpretations under that intelligence and the knowledge on many things of Kenyans that he has said. And still under this, I've said that he is feeling that maybe this cabinet is not what some Kenyans demanded, especially the Gen Zs, when some politicians have tried so hard, I don't know whether it's the truth, to associate him with the protests in this country, even though he absolved himself at some point. And then the very politicians who tried this now went mum, and now the president also came with a different version of this, saying that the protests are being funded by foreigners, where he mentioned the Ford Foundation on this. Also within his speech, Rigathi said something. He has maintained that the protesters were peaceful, but were hijacked by some criminal elements who destroyed the intended objective of the protests. Then you ask yourself, what is Rigithi's position in regards to the protests and in regards to the view of his boss, who termed the protesters in general as heinous, treasonous criminals, and in preceding statements said that these protesters are out to bring in anarchy in this country, or anarchists who want to cause mayhem to this country. What is his position? It tells you a lot politically. It doesn't just come out. It must have some meaning. And if you're a good student of politics, or you're a lover of political analysis, then I know that you make something also from the same. Number 3. Rigathi Gachagua might be forced to retract and probably merge out as a victim of political deception. He might go relaxing, then redraw and re-strategize and merge out as a victim of political deception, something that is common in this country. The Raila Ruto thing seems to be a similar script that happened to Ruto when Ruto was in part of Uhuru's government, and that was the worst fear that Rigathi Gachagua had. He even said that he'd set traps everywhere so that Raila could not be seen walking anywhere near State House. But then the reality of the things, something that he was so much afraid of, is finally not just in his house, but in his bedroom. Now when he sleeps, when he looks at the ceiling, he has to see the writings that, Raila is finally part of your government. That is the worst fear that he had. So he might be forced to now go back to the people and say, no, let me fight using the people agenda and tell them that I'm a victim of political deception, the same way Ruto did. And if you look at his politics from the start, maybe, he seemed to be somebody who was reading from Ruto's playbook. That is something that he was reading from, and that one, to some extent, brought some frictional dispute between him and his boss and those people surrounding his boss. So he might go back to his constituents and try to seek that sympathy, try to play that sympathy card. But then our question, or the question that would be there, or even his advisors would be asking themselves, is the question of what national portrayal does it bear, since he thrives as a direct representative of a constituent of Mount Kenya, and rather not as a DP or a deputy president of the rest of the Republic of Kenya. But I know one thing, that Rigathi Gachagua is crafting. He is crafting something. He is reading and is crafting something together with his allies, and according to him, he says that go to the ground and listen to what the ground says. And I know with the time, especially with the politics of Raila's entrance into this government, the mountain will likely speak. I don't know the direction that the mountain will speak in, but then we are waiting. Anyway, that will be another day in politics. The other thing, but this is where the rain started beating Rigathi Gachagua. At first he seemed delusioned. He was blinded was too much of himself by thinking that he had so much powers in this government. And I said it today in some analysis that the government like this one only belongs to one man, that is William Ruto. I don't want this to sound as a respect to the people of Kenya, because there is the sovereignty of the people of Kenya in running the government as particular, but then the government belongs to one man, William Ruto, and the rest can only be termed as flower girls. Maybe for a special case in this case is the protection of the constitution on the office of Rigathi Gachagua, that they were elected as a pair. Therefore, there is no way that he can be shoved off from office. He might just be shoved off politically, but his position and capacity as per the dictates of the constitution might not be touched, but might experience really serious shocks. So he might also use this. People at first not use this, but this dilutionment with power, you know, people seeing him or used to see him as somebody who tried settling political scores with the blinded power. The way he could appear and say this is a shareholders government, and therefore if you're not a shareholder, you're not going to get something out of this. But then that one has turned out maybe at some point to disappoint him, because it seems not to have worked. The people around Ruto seem to have been crafty politically. But then Rigathi Gachagua, maybe a word of advice to him, maybe, is that he has to be careful in order not to be consumed by an equaling force that is likely to come from Mount Kenya with the blessings of those who are in power and are against Rigathi Gachagua. One thing today, I saw the Nation run a story today. Yes, let me just get the story here. And the headline of the story is, Kinjuri blames Gachagua for Raila's entry into government. That was the story that was run by the Nation today. Then from that story, Kinjuri made a sensational claim that 4 politicians from Mount Kenya, along with the 2 Azimio leaders, provided financial support to 25,000 hooligans to infiltrate recent protests and destabilize the government to remove Ruto from power. And to quote Kinjuri, the president has revealed to some of us there is a damning evidence, and some people have already recorded police statements. Mr. Kinjuri asserted, adding that the government possessed audio, visual, and financial evidence of the alleged plot. If you go down this story, Kinjuri tries to shift the blame that Raila's entry into government should be put on the shoulders of Rigathi Gachagua as having failed the mountain. So, in a bid to settle political proneness, the likes of Kinjuri might be used to create an equaling political force against Rigathi Gachagua. So, on that one, he has also to read carefully the script so as not to be made useless by the same. Thank you for watching. That marks the end of our analysis.